Hello everyone, Arwen from Evenstar with a Facebook Live for this week all about headache and migraine, which unfortunately does seem to be a bit of a common complaint for many people. And funnily enough, I kind of decided to do this and then found myself with really bad headache one day last week, which is pretty unusual for me now, thank goodness. And then my 13-year-old had a really bad headache one day, and I think my older son did as well. So maybe it's something to do with what's been going on in astrology at the moment. But anyway, it is something that people deal with a lot. And I wanted to talk about the underlying causes, because the thing is, if we just continue popping aspirin or Nurofen or whatever to ease the pain, in actual fact, we are shooting the messenger that our body is sending us the message of the pain. And by just treating that symptom and not looking at what the underlying cause is and trying to deal with that, we're going to end up with a recurring problem. So I really wanted to delve in a little bit to the underlying metaphysical causes of headache and migraine, and also definitely give you some more holistic ways to deal with this kind of situation, so that you don't have to rely on having those painkillers available to you. And there's lots of unpleasant side effects of taking too many painkillers, which probably you wouldn't be aware of until it was too late. So things to do with damaging your gut, which we don't want to have to deal with either in years to come. So I really wanted to emphasize that when we are dealing with this kind of thing on an ongoing basis, so when we have headache or migraine coming back again and again, it effectively means that we have to operate with suboptimal brain function. So the blood flow and the chemical flow that is going on in your brain, which is basically, the chemicals are how the brain operates, chemicals and electricity. If it's not functioning to its optimal level, this means that you have to do things in your life, now that can be in your work, in your home, that mean that your brain is not working as it should, and you may potentially make very silly or even dangerous decisions and take action that you otherwise wouldn't if you weren't suffering from this continuous pain. So that's something to keep in mind, especially things in regards to at home. One of my big areas is food, and the minute we start feeling pretty seedy a lot of the time, we often let go of our resolve to look after ourselves with really great food, to cook meals from scratch, and that is just going to add to the negative cycle of the problem. If we're putting toxic food-like substances into our body because we can't be bothered cooking a decent, wholesome meal with foods from the earth, then we are just contributing to the problem. So do keep that in mind. It's really the best approach is to take the time to deal with the underlying cause of the condition, and that's with anything, not just headache and migraine, so that it doesn't become a recurring problem and you don't cause other future problems for yourself. I do apologise. It's coming through at all angles. So what I wanted to then talk about is, what are the underlying metaphysical causes of headache and migraine? And basically it comes down to putting too much pressure on yourself. So you might, as we often do, attribute it to an external cause, to a boss being too tough on you, or to your kids driving you mad, or your parents being really annoying. But in fact, it always comes down to what we're turning that into for ourselves. And a headache is putting ourselves under too much pressure. So it's really a physical manifestation of self-criticism. A migraine then goes a step further, and it tends to be when we require or expect of ourselves complete perfection, and then that doesn't happen, because really, when does perfection ever happen? And we become angry at ourselves on some level, angry, disappointed, And we want then to be able to deal with that, but we generally will store that away in our bodies, and that then turns into the migraine pain, which can be excruciating, and it can also mean that, you know, we lose our visual function properly, people become sensitive to noise. Migraine is a really big deal. So the underlying thing here in both cases is emotion, and the problem is that we often don't let ourselves feel into those difficult emotions that we have, to that anger, to that disappointment. And our emotions actually only last, each time we experience an emotion, it lasts for 60 to 90 seconds. But we become so good at distracting ourselves from that, at directing the blame to someone else, to externalizing it, to distracting ourselves with something like social media or YouTube or whatever it is, and or a physical activity or a food, and not letting ourselves feel that difficult emotion. The problem then becomes that our body stores that emotion instead. We don't deal with it, it gets stored. And that is where we end up with physical manifestations of that emotion. So, if we can train ourselves to become more aware and to let ourselves sit with that difficult emotion for that time, which is always going to be less than 2 minutes, it's nothing in the scheme of things, then hopefully that will mean that our body doesn't need to store it and trap it and keep it in there as trauma that we haven't dealt with, because we have processed it, we've let ourselves feel into it. So, what else can we do to help ourselves treat headache and migraine and deal with those underlying causes? Because that's really the key here, not just treating the symptom of the pain. The best thing that I would, of course, recommend as an energy healer is that you use some energy healing technique. The great thing about this is that it will work on all levels. So it's going to work on the physical pain, but also on the underlying emotional causes and any mental distress or spiritual issues that might be causing us to have these symptoms as well. So even if you don't understand what the underlying emotion is for you and why you keep getting these headaches, an energy healing modality is going to work on all levels. Even if you don't understand it, the energy knows where to go. So that is a really powerful tool for you to have for yourself. Now, other things that are going to work on all levels and work on the emotion, again, even if you don't understand or know what it is on a conscious level, are things like using crystals, using essential oils that will also work on the emotions. So I definitely would recommend particular essential oils. I'm an absolutely massive fan of peppermint oil when it comes to headache and migraine, and actually using this oil inside your mouth, because it gets really close to the brainstem if we place it inside the mouth. This does mean you need to use a therapeutic grade pure essential oil. And what we do is put one drop on our finger and place it underneath your tongue, and then another drop on another finger and place it on the roof of your mouth. So right at the back on the soft palate of your mouth. And by doing that, I find with almost everyone that the headache goes away within about 10 minutes. So give that a try. Please get in contact with me if you'd like to get access to some beautiful therapeutic grade peppermint oil. There is another one that doTERRA also produced specifically for headache, which is called Past Tense. This is a roller, so you'd actually roll it on the back of your neck, on your temples, on your wrists, on the bottoms of your feet, to help you to deal with that headache. this month, if you're watching this video pretty much close to when it was live, then I am actually having a bottle of past tense available to win. So you can go in the draw to win that just by signing up for my monthly update, which you can do through the Facebook page or through my website, which is www.evenstarwellbeing.com. And you just need to sign up to the monthly update. You will go in the draw to win the beautiful bottle of past tense, and you also receive my chakra balancing ebook completely free when you sign up. So just a little plug there for that. So that's up until midnight the 31st of March that you can do that. So that's my Star Essential Oil for March is past tense. I would also recommend meditation and sleep. So they're things that you should be prioritizing most days in my book. So meditation, really great for when you do have a headache or migraine as well. Take yourself off to do a meditation, focus on the breath, breathe into the pain, and using the breath in that way can be really beneficial. You might also do well to prioritize sleep. So in the general case, every night, making sure you prioritize sleep, because if we don't, all the cells in our body, and especially in our brain, actually cannot repair themselves. And that can be really detrimental to dealing with any kind of toxicity in the body, and can obviously lead to headache and migraine as well. Crystals as well. So as with essential oils, crystals are going to help you work on the underlying emotional causes as well as the physical pain of the headache. So for migraine, fire agate, amber, pyrite are some really good options. And then for your more ordinary common or garden headache, labradorite, magnetite, and jasper are some that you might like to try. I always recommend that people make sure that their surroundings are as toxin-free as possible. And the area that we have the greatest locus of control here is obviously our homes. So getting rid of synthetic fragrances, making sure you're not putting them on your skin as well, and getting fresh air in, getting yourself out into the open air and into nature as much as possible is going to be really beneficial when this is a chronic problem for you. Obviously, you don't want to necessarily take yourself off for a bushwalk when you have a headache, but trying to bring that into your life. Now, the other key thing that I always talk about is food. So again, making sure, as I mentioned before, that that is as low toxicity as possible, so as natural as possible. Try and get into having at least the main things that you eat in organic form, and making sure that you're eating as many plant-based, beautiful, whole foods from the earth as you can as well. Anti-inflammatory foods might be beneficial for you if this is an ongoing problem. So your white foods, your garlic, your onion, and things like turmeric and ginger, which are really great for modulating our inflammatory response, and really making sure that you don't have too many mental stimulants. So things like caffeine, chocolate, alcohol as well. It's really good to make sure that you reduce your consumption of them if you're having lots of headaches and migraines. And because we're dealing with the talking about chakras, the energy centers, so we're dealing with our third eye, our sixth chakra, and our seventh chakra, our crown, when we're looking at these symptoms. And eating lots of blue purple foods is going to potentially benefit and balance out your sixth chakra. So I'd recommend that. So your berries, all the blue purple versions of cabbage and kale and things like that are going to be really beneficial. Lots of fats as well, the great omega-3 fats that your brain needs. Your brain is about 60% fat, so make sure you eat the good quality versions of these from your nuts and your seeds. Green leafy vegetables as well, fish oils, flaxseed oil. Make sure you're getting plenty of those into your diet. So you're actually thinking about lubricating your brain and making it function as well as possible. Getting yourself into fresh air for movement as well, some slow, gentle movements. And I really highly recommend yoga, because it's a type of exercise that actually helps our body release the trauma that it stores. So that is something to really consider getting into if headache and migraine is a constant problem for you. Yoga helps us to deal with stress. It teaches our body that it can deal with stress so we don't have to store it. So it's a really wonderful thing to get into. If you'd like any more information, please feel free to contact me, and I look forward to joining you again soon. I hope you have a headache-free, migraine-free, wonderful weekend. Please be well. Bye now.